The all-powerful ruler, known as the Great Sun, stood on his dwelling terrace high on the mound and stared down at the commotion in the plaza below. He scowled. A thunder drum had boomed the usual warning. Signals from lookout points announced the distant approach of strangers. But traders were always arriving. Why the furor? Shading his eyes with a hand at his tattooed forehead, the Great Sun gazed north and east across fields and dwellings to the sacred river. Longman, a giant whose head rose in the foothills of the mountains, and whose foot lay far down in the lowlands. A great bend in the river encircled a peninsula where the city of the Great Sun rose in glory with its ceremonial center of soaring mounds and outlying villages. The Great Sun's view was partially obscured by trees, crowding Longman's flank, but he knew the river's embankment bustled with the usual activity of men, drying fishing nets, women washing clothes, children playing, and guards patrolling the river's strategic bend to collect tribute from foreign canoes. But no foreigners appeared. Again, the thunder drum boomed, and more people scurried from outlying villages into the great plaza, eager to trade or to inspect new arrivals. The Great Sun turned westward toward the plaza. He still shaded his eyes, although it was morning and his spiritual brother, the spirit being, now shone low in the sky behind him. It was early summer, already hot, although morning shadows lay long. Perspiration beaded his upper lip. He was a tall man, broad of chest and shoulder, whose stance and every gesture and glance proclaimed a heritage of royal command. A crown of white swan feathers, 8 inches high in front and 4 inches high in back, symbolized his royal status. Each feather was tipped with a small red tuft and a tassel. The crown bore a scarlet diadem, lavish with white pearls and conch shell beads intricately engraved. Only the Great Sun was privileged to wear such a crown, and only the Great Sun knew that he who wore the crown concealed a secret in his spirit. A shameful secret that must never be discovered, never. Especially not by his brother Striped Serpent, nor by Mani Mani, his sister, nor by either of his 2 mates, not even by Patu, his beloved small son. A breeze fingered the feathers, ruffled the tassels, and carried the sound of people gathered below in the plaza. He had discarded his cloak of scarlet feathers and wore only an ornate breechclout that hung to a point in front and dangled to his knees. It glistened with pearls and feathers and bright shell beads. An engraved conch shell disc upon his chest proclaimed his sacred heritage. Copper and shell ear spools glittered, and moccasins of scarlet deerskin ornamented with pearls adorned his feet. As each person approached the sacred mound where the Great Sun stood in all his splendor, that person was required on threat of death to bow 3 times and howl the required greeting, "How, how, how." Nobles of lesser stature were acknowledged with 1 or 2 hows, depending upon lineage. Only the Great Sun merited 3. The boom of the thunder drum, the excited exclamations of villagers and the shouts of children mingled with respectful howls of greeting and the yelps of tethered dogs. The Great Sun gestured, and immediately a slave appeared below. His head was shaved, and he wore only a plain breechclout. "How, how, how," he bellowed, touching his forehead to the ground. Then he ran up the long flight of stairs on the mound slope, passing the Great Sun's guards on either side, until he reached the terrace where the Great Sun stood. The slave howled again and prostrated himself on the ground, arms outstretched. After a suitable pause, the Great Sun grunted, and the slave lifted his head, but did not presume to gaze at the Holy One. The Great Sun gestured. "Summon the Kadi." The slave backed away, then ran down the stairs, shouting. When he reached the plaza, he disappeared. He reappeared soon, followed by the Kadi, a short, powerfully built man in a jaguar cloak. He was greeted by a loud